Anytime anybody thinks about Larry King, they think about journalism in a totally different sphere. Journalism, journalism, not reporting the news, but journalism is not seen today as it used to be back in the day. A journalist was a very respected person. I think almost all professions were very respected, with the president of the United States down to the floor cleaner, were highly respected um, occupations, vocations, because people took pride in their work. Larry King had a passion for interviewing people. He wasn't, this is the interesting thing about the journalism that he did, was never opinionated, was never biased, was always inquisitive, was always um, trying to highlight the person that he was interviewing. He gave everybody a fair shake. He was never swayed by any bias. He simply wanted to know. He simply wanted to know. And he'd ask the questions that were reasonable and rational. And he opened the door to a world, a perspective and a world of the people he was interviewing. And I thought it was just beautiful. And it's somewhat sad that he has passed and that era of journalism is over. We have a lot more journalism today that is more business than it is journalism. It's more about marketing a product than it is about telling the truth or finding out about something or seeing a different perspective. And so that will be dearly missed. We still have journalists who really are the gold standard. I know if a journalist in PBS, she does an excellent job. We see sometimes the older journalists in ABC or NBC, the senior journalists, and they have that stance again where they're not really trying to impose their opinion or some sort of brand, but they actually just speak factual information, relay information, and are more interested in their interviews in finding out more than they are about any agenda. And that's beautiful to see. That's the way I knew about the news. Some of the older people, I'm 45 years old, I knew about news, relaying the news in a non biased way. It's just based on what you're reporting, what is there. And then if you are a journalist is more about finding out more about what is there, and it wasn't so much about the opinion driven journalism, as much as it was about having, who does a good job of that? Wolf on CNN. You don't know if he's Republican or Democrat, right? You don't know what his political affiliation is or his views. He does a great job of just sharing information with the cast. Again, the older school guys, journalism, let me be honest with you. Now we hear about liberal journalists, we hear about, right wing journalists. That's bullshit. Journalism, you're not supposed to know their persuasion. A true good journalist, not just reporting, but they also do pieces based on ideas, philosophies, slants of view, perspectives. When they do interviews, it's to find out more about a person, to have real questions and difficult questions to pose towards them, to find out where they stand on certain things. But more or less, a journalist is supposed to be someone who is about getting information, not about any agenda, not about getting people to say certain things, but information that the public will need. The public's concerns. What is the public concerned about? To reflect that, to give the hard, tough questions. To no matter who they are, it could be somebody who everybody likes, but to ask the tough questions. Investigative journalism, we don't have that anymore. And so I just wanted to put that there because it's always important that there is fairness and equity in journalism. A really Pulitzer Prize journalist is someone who is equitable and fair in how they conduct their journalism. And that's lacking today. We have people playing games and picking sides. And that is not journalism. Okay? And it's very important. to understand that. Now, you find that I think of all the mainstream channels and the best journalism I've seen comes from things like C-SPAN, PBS, the local stations and networks. They report the news. They have very little opinions on anything, unless it's a general consensus by the population. They express it in interviews or whatever. I think these are the best. CNN is somewhat corporate and conglomerate. They have a bias towards that. So you have to watch that and you have to bear that in mind. But again, their journalism is, to the most part, something that you can respect to some degree. But I would hope that the senior people would teach the younger journalists how to constantly ask the tough questions, but not to let their bias in on what they are reporting. And especially now under the Biden administration, to be as tough, to ask the tough questions, to continue to not relax, but to continue pressing on certain issues and matters. So that's all I ask of the journalists. But other than those reporting bodies, the local WGN9, whatever, the local Fox News networks are also very good and credible. I just want to say that journalism has become more of a branding, and that's not good. Okay, so that's all I got to say for now. There's also other networks outside of the United States of America. The BBC sometimes has credibility, sometimes doesn't have credibility, but they're pretty good. Certain other networks, in other parts of the world are also pretty good at what they cover. So let's try to keep the media, mainstream media and media in general, let's keep focused on not letting opinionated media uh, overwhelm or overwash media which is unbiased or as unbiased as possible, especially reporting media which reports factual information. So that's what I got to say for now. I'm gonna catch you guys later. But RIP to the great, late great uh, journalist who's passed away at 87.